3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by the Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast. I am Jeff Stanfield with the world-famous Andy Shaver.
That's right. Back from Squad Fest. Great time in St. Louis. As always, they do not disappoint. Been a great weekend. Met a lot of people, and I'm still tired.
I sweated like I was building the fucking pyramids on Saturday.
Do you want to talk about the pyramids?
What do you want to talk about them?
Where'd they get the rocks? How'd they cut the rocks? How'd they get them in such precise order?
For me, sweating because of fucking slave labor's how. Oh, you mean that have the technology they use with it? God dang, I'm hung up here. I do not like this new mic stand. I'm telling you right now, I cannot get used to this shit at all.
You've bitched about every one that we've had up to this point.
I want one of those that goes around my ears, and I have a mouthpiece like Monday Night Football in 1977.
You would bitch about that also.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes, you would. That's all you would do, would bitch about it.
Nope. The technology was amazing, how they did it. We'll talk about that in another one because we can go way deep into conspiracy theories. With us today.
Well, he might. What do you think about the pyramids?
Well, let me introduce him. From Big Lake, Texas,
hell if I know.
Mr. Ty Self. Ty, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How about y'all?
Good. You have nothing to contribute to the pyramids?
No. All I want to know is, did you drink every beer they brought you?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
I did too.
You avoided some people's beer.
I don't have any idea how they would have went about making the rocks, cutting the rocks, or packing the rocks to the very top, but it looked miserable, or it looks like it would be miserable.
First of all, the desert then was different than what it is like now. It was more fertile back then. The desert has grown.
So now they got to get around trees, and it's not just fucking flat. I think that makes it even harder to do what they did.
What I'm saying is that they actually probably had more firm ground to build the pyramids on than what it is now. I'm thinking, and that's probably why there's no trees in the desert, because they cut every one of them fuckers down to build the damn pyramids.
There's no what? What are we talking about here?
You talking about the pyramids?
What are they cutting trees down for?
How do you think they move the stones? They put them on. Put them on logs.
That's what I'm asking you.
I want to know how they got them so square.
Exactly.
That's what's amazing about it. But even if you go back to the Roman times, they have an aqueduct system that they built that they could move water from the lakes high up in the mountains that traveled hundreds of miles. And in Rome during that time, there was running water in homes. You had running water. You could turn a spigot on and water would come into your house. They have an aqueduct system. And the Roman Colosseum, they could fill it up with water where they had battleship. They had fights and ships in there with boats that they could mimic pirate ships and stuff. So they could fill up an area in that. So they were really great mathematicians and great engineers.
Do you know? Okay, so do you know how much a stone weighs that's on the pyramid?
5 tons.
I'll just tell you, 2.5 tons.
2.5 tons. So half of what I thought. 2.5 tons.
2.5 tons.
So 5,000-pound boulders.
Well, square rocks.
That
precisionally placed to line up with the stars.
Now, if you had 25,000 slaves, you can get a lot of shit done.
I don't think you can get that many hands on it. You can't get 25,000 slaves
block and tackle
on a boulder like that.
Block and tackle. They can do a lot of stuff with they were smart people.
And so if you're going to tell me that they had a machine that did it all,
I didn't say they had a machine that did it.
Or if you're telling me they had a pulley system that did it all, where'd the pulley system go? If you're going to tell me that they had a ramp that did it all, you need a long-ass ramp. Somebody's already done the math.
So you tell me, how do you think it got there?
Magic.
Okay, that's your answer. Ty, what do you think?
Aliens.
I don't know.
That's not an answer. That's a cop-out. You got to give us an answer. You got to take a side here.
Here's what I'll say.
Well, they had to. I mean, they might have had horses. They might have had a block and tackle deal. They might have been able to do this or that. But I still think that it would have taken way forever. I don't know. I really think I'm sure they had to do it manual, but I bet it took them forever and it sucked.
If you look at the Graham Hancock theory, he says so. The pyramids are about the same age as the Göbekli Tepe civilization, and they were doing a lot of weird things then. So his theory is that we were very, very advanced civilization 10 to 12,000 years ago, and that something major happened. They think most likely an asteroid strike that wiped out that civilization and wiped out that level of technology and sent us back into the Stone Age. And we had to regather our knowledge. Because even as smart as we are, we got iPhones and we can talk to anybody around the world. And I'm looking at Ty. I don't know where you are right now, but I see you just plain as day. Even with the technology that we have today, we can't give an answer to how that was built, how the Mayan ruins were built, and now that's a much smaller scale, and they were placed with precision accuracy. So
we had a loss of technology.
Square.
Right.
I mean, even the Mayan ruins have got something that line up with the moon and the sun perfectly, and I don't know all it was. I'm assuming the fucking Democrats took over and it just fucked the whole world up and they went backwards because that's what's happening in our country. So there you go.
History repeats itself.
So Joe Biden was elected before 10,000 years ago.
I bet when you agreed to do this, that you did not think that there was any chance in hell that we would open with the pyramids.
No, not at all. But I'm game.
There's also a pyramid in America. Where's it at? It's up on a hill.
In Las Vegas. It's called the Luxor. No. Ty, you asked if Andy drank any beer this week.
I did.
Yeah.
Andy,
that's all.
a lot of bourbon.
I didn't drink any bourbon.
You didn't drink any bourbon at the Boss
Deal?
Deal?
A single bourbon.
Oh,
Tony drank it all.
You had blueberry vodka.
Tony mooched off of Lee's bourbon.
Poor Lee chose. He lost all his bourbon to Tony. You had a bottle. Mike brung a bottle from Michigan. Is it gone?
I hadn't had it.
Is it still here?
I don't know where it is.
I think it got drank.
Tony was in charge of that.
It's gone.
Oh.
Because Lee and Tony were looking for bourbon the last day, Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
did anybody bring you a beer? Like buy a beer, bring you a beer? Did they do that?
A couple times, yeah. I only turned one person down through the whole weekend. If somebody wanted to buy me a beer, there was one person, and we were about to leave. And it was after the calling contest. He caught me, and I knew that we were going to be leaving pretty soon. And I was like, I appreciate it. He was the only person that I turned down.
We had a good time. We met a lot of great folks, saw a lot of old friends, met a lot of new friends. And it was a very humbling experience for us because it showed us how big our podcast is getting. And it was really a neat deal. And it was a very humbling experience for us. We met a lot of nice people. A lot of ladies that listen to the podcast, husbands and wives. And that made me feel good that the women, we haven't ran off all the ladies. So that made me feel good. So Ty.
Shit, it was near Monk's Mound.
Huh?
Monk's Mound.
Where's that at?
It's right
Where's
next to St. Louis.
Oh, well.
We missed it.
We probably drove right by it on the way home in the mountains. So Ty Self, you are a cowboy. Yeah. You know my middle son, Zach.
I do.
And you and Zach Bronc rode together, right?
A couple of places, yes, sir. That's kind of where I met him at. I can't remember if it was Stanford or Seymour or where it was or even really what year it was. Like I said, it had to be 10 or 11.
Saddle bronc or bareback?
Ranch bronc.
Ranch bronc.
Zachary.
So what's that?
That's with the saddle, right?
That's with the saddle, right?
With the regular cowboy working saddle, the saddle horn and all that, like you would just ride a horse to go to work.
Can you use two hands or just is it the one?
Yeah, you can use two hands.
Now, they say saddle bronc is more dangerous than bareback, right? Or have I got that backwards?
I think all of them have their equal problems. I think they're all pretty dangerous in their own ways, but I would say bareback is possibly more dangerous because you have your hand wedged in a rigging that you can't get out if you roll over on whatever side. It locks your hand in.
Because saddle bronc is just the rope, correct?
Right.
Zachary, I guess when he was about 16 years old, he came to me and he said, listen, I want to ride in the rodeo at Monday. And I'm like, hell no. We've paid $7,000 for your fucking teeth. You got football season come up. I know Coach Steele don't want you riding this shit. Please, come on. So we agreed to it. Then, well, can you pay for it? It's $125. So Zach, me and Michelle went over to Monday to watch him do this. And Zach looked like a fucking yard dart. About 1 second. So by the hour, Monday, fire department made a whole lot of money off of us because the $125 was gone in about 2 seconds. So then he done it again, and I told him, I said, no more. We're not paying for this shit. And Zachary decided he was going to lie to us, and me and Michelle were in Dallas. We went to some concert or doing something, and Michelle get the hotel, and she looks at the deal. She goes, oh, look, Zach changed his profile picture on Facebook. I go, what to? She goes, look, it's him riding a saddle bronc. I go, he's fucking not supposed to be doing that shit no more. So I call him up. Oh, we're in Vernon. We lose Ty?
I think we lost everything. I think we lost all internet.
So Zach, we're in the hotel, and Michelle's like, Zach's changed his profile picture to riding a saddle bronc. So I'm like, I told his ass I wasn't fucking doing that shit no more. I'm fucking done. I ain't paying his cell phone. I was pissed. So I called him up, and he didn't answer my phone, of course. And Michelle called him, and then he answered the phone. And he's like, "Oh, we're at Vernon. We went to Vernon to some deal tonight. We're not rodeoing or nothing." So I start looking at the fucking at the deal in the background, and it says Post National Bank and something. He was at the Post fucking rodeo, and he won the son of a bitch, and he had lied to me.
Oh yeah,
and he lied.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, I was not fucking happy, and that was the last one that he did on my dime. And then now it's Shelby's problem, so if he does it now, that's between her and them. But anyways, that was the time in the life of Zach.
Yeah, I can't even remember. It had to have been Stanford, because I think it was Zach, Riley Rodriguez, and I can't remember who else.
I want to blame Zach for getting.
We were all back there behind the bucket.
Yeah, I want to blame Zach for getting Riley in trouble instead of Riley blaming Zach in trouble. But them two together did not make a good medicine usually. And it's still that way today.
Yeah, I got caught. I'm fairly young. I would say a little younger than them. I got caught signing, going to them rodeos when I was 16 and 17, and signing as I was 18. And no family, nobody around, just getting on by myself. And it didn't take me long to realize that I was not built for that sport of rodeo.
That's a tough game. And I'm going to tell you right now, the toughest men I know probably are all cowboys. That's a whole different breed of people.
Yeah.
And, and
for sure,
people don't realize. It's funny when you go somewhere and you see a guy wearing cowboy boots and hats, and it's in a big city, because most of the time they're not cowboys. But out here, if you see somebody wearing cowboy boots and shit, they're a cowboy. Not all of them, but we have real cowboys.
Sure.
I see a real cowboy here every day, because that's the way of the world here. We were in New York City We were in New York City
for sure
when Zach was probably 14 or 15, and we were going to the airport, and there was a couple sitting there, and I sat down next to him, and Zach come in, and Zach was in full cowboy gear, and that guy kind of hit his wife. He said, "Look there. There's one of them." And I didn't say nothing. He goes, what? He goes, yep, there's one of them right there. I go, what is that? He goes, that's one of them gay guys that was at that gay parade yesterday. Look at him wearing cowboy hat and boots. And I started laughing. I go, no, that's my middle son. I said, he actually cowboys at home in Texas. And I thought it was funny as hell. That guy goes, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I said, no, you're not.
I can't wait.
I said, you're not bothering me at all. I said, you don't see very many people in cowboy hats and boots in New York City, so I can understand why. But they'd had a big gay parade that day, and he thought Zach was part of the gay parade. So
it's not very nice, is it?
Give Zach hell about that from now
on.
on.
It was great. So you cowboyed. Now Zach told me that you worked down on the Rio Grande for a while.
I lived south of Animas, which it's not really on the Rio Grande, I guess, but it's south of Animas and Hachita, New Mexico, on the Mexico border, about 5 miles from Chihuahua City. I could see the lights. But then I worked down on the King for 2 years, which is fairly close.
And then, did you just?
I mean, I've been down on the border.
What's the have you seen the illegals crossing the Rio Grande, kind of like we're seeing now on the news?
I mean, it wasn't. They weren't necessarily crossing the water, but they were crossing the minority fence on the border. Like, we were camped on it. We had the wagon down there, and we were in our teepees. And about a mile or two from us to the south was the Sierra Madres, and that's where that minority fence run right down it. And it was just a piece of I-beam with two pieces of I-beam making an X, and the I-beam sitting in the middle of it for the fence. And they would crawl over them fences and running. They were packing pot back and forth down there on that big ranch.
You said you were in teepees?
Oh yeah, we were living on wagon, spring wagon.
Spring. Okay, so it's not like now. So I mean, the weather's pretty reasonable at that time.
No, we started branding in May. We stayed out 10 days and off 2, and we started in May, and we rolled the wagon back around into headquarters July 4th.
Fuck around,
man! I'll tell you.
So
where do you bathe, or do you come in and out to wash your ass?
You really didn't for 8 to 10 days at a time. And you pack dude wipes, baby powder, which back then, dude wipes weren't even a thing. I say back then, I didn't know it was being a thing.
Yeah.
That was 2014 or 15, and we just had baby wipes and powder, and you might find a dirt tank every now and again that you were kind of wash your face off or whatever.
Because I got to tell you,
Just carry like a gallon jug
I got to tell you,
to brush your teeth.
back in my younger days, during hunting season, I would not, you get tired and you might go 2 or 3 days without a shower.
Right.
By that third day, like your ass is just so nasty. You're just like, I gotta do something different. This is not conducive to a happy work environment. I couldn't imagine, and that's during the wintertime.
Right.
So like I couldn't imagine breaking a sweat or riding a fucking horse all day and in and out and up and down. Not good.
No. By day 8 or 10, when you come home to wash clothes, check your waters in your country that you were tended to, or where you lived, I guess, it was pretty rainy.
I can imagine.
Especially when you walked in and it was pretty rainy.
We were talking about this coming home yesterday. Can you like the whorehouse? You hear about the whorehouses in like Tombstone and out in Albany and all that. Like there had to be some rank motherfuckers back in those days.
Had to have been. There's no way they weren't. I've thought that myself. Like you smell yourself after day 9 and you're like, God Almighty. Like how do you go into a whorehouse and order a shot of whiskey and be like, going upstairs? Like what's going through your fucking mind?
And those poor women back in those days, they had to carry like some sort of Vicks or something to put under their nose. Had to have.
They were they were tough, and they didn't know any better. They didn't, you know what I mean? They didn't know.
Yeah, that was their life. They didn't.
No different than us today living with air conditioning.
I guess
that's exactly right. So when you were on that river and stuff, and you said the pot smugglers, did you ever have dealings with them?
Today we have an air.
We got a little delay. Go ahead, Jeff.
Can you hear me, Ty?
Actually been through, but yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we had a delay for a second. Did you have any? Did you ever have any dealings with any of the drug smugglers coming through there? We lost him.
It's got to be our internet.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, I lived at my camp that I had down there on that ranch was 16,000 acres, roughly, with big rough mountains. So if you mash that thing out, it was probably close to 35,000 acres. And yes, you would, like in the mornings, you'd be trotting out horseback in a jig line, going to go gather make a little jerk in a pasture. You couldn't gather those pastures all at once, as rough and big as they were. So we would just gather like a quarter of it, brand that, throw them in another pasture, and so on. And but you'd be trotting along, and you'd like come up on like a little smolder, like a little fire, and some bottles of water, and it'd be warm. And then if you started looking around, you'd see them scattered, and they'd be running everywhere. Like they were out there. I mean, they would come to the house and ask for water. They're a lot of cartel stuff.
Did you ever get nervous?
I never worried about it. My wife, on the other hand, I had a bunch of cow dogs and stuff that I left running around at the house, and they kind of come off. The only time that I think I ever got nervous was there was this one guy. He was wearing all black, had a black hoodie. Mind you, this is like August, hot in southern New Mexico, and he had a black hoodie, black shoes, black backpack, and I was out feeding horses, and just heard the dogs barking. And I turned around and looked, and this guy comes walking up, a little horseman, a little bitty bastard, probably in his 30s, 40s, and he comes walking up. He says he needed a migrant in Spanish, so he needed border patrol. He said he hurt his knees, and he was down back behind my house. There was another camp, and I don't know what all happened, but he had a bum knee. Anyways, long story short, I called Border Patrol. They came and picked him up. And as they were coming down the road, he like got his little bag out off his back, and he like gave me a lighter, a pocket knife, and he like showed me the lighter worked. It was a big lighter. I guess he thought I'd never seen a lighter before. I don't know. He handed me
I have
a
mastered
lighter,
fire.
and a pocket knife, and yeah, fire. And he had bottles of penicillin, ibuprofen, like all kinds of painkillers, but it was all liquid with needles and syringes. And he tried to give me all that, and then he had a little flip phone, and he took his flip phone and he took the battery out of it and took the SIM card out of it and put it between his ass cheeks. Broke the phone up and threw it underneath a bush in front of me. And when the Border Patrol pulled up, he got in there and they got ready to leave, and I called one of them back after they got out of sight, and I said, hey, I don't know what's going on, and I probably shouldn't tell you this because if they the way the cartel works, if they find out you're snitching on them or something like that, they're going to come get your ass or come talk to you. And but I told the Border Patrol that he had put a SIM card between his ass cheeks, and he said, all right, well, that's thanks. Anyways, he was a scout is what they were. That's about all they could figure out is he was a scout, and those scouts would go live up on the mountains for, months and watch they have radios and all kinds of stuff, and they would call back and forth. And if there was a Border Patrol was leaving the area, they would, radio down to their smugglers, and they would come across that part of the mountain or whatever that they were doing.
Jeez.
And then he come to the house, and that was what kind of worried me at first. That's the only time I got nervous. I guess I kind of got off track. I can talk to it, T-Post, but
no, you're good.
He wouldn't leave. I tried to make him leave 2 or 3 times, and he would just go sit down by my barn like he wouldn't leave. It was getting dark, and it wasn't. That's about the only time I really ever got nervous.
I'd be worried, and we've heard so many horror stories over the years with all this going on, but once they kind of know where you live, that's when I would be nervous that there's going to be more that come. Maybe like when I'm asleep or some shit.
Well, I can sit here and tell you stories about them all day long. I lived down there for close to a year, and half of the time I was sleeping in a teepee away from the house, a long ways, and then half the time I was at the house. And I had a bunkhouse in front of my house, and some mornings you would get up to make coffee and the lights would be on in that bunkhouse. I'd go down there and turn them off, and then it might be 3 days. Then you'd wake up for breakfast or getting your coffee or whatever, and the lights would be back on. They would just come through that bunkhouse at all hours of the night, and that's where my beef was down there, and my big freezer was down there, and they would steal my beef, eat all my steaks. Like it was miserable. You'd go in there and you'd find it's miserable. They would just come in and they'd camp in that house for the night, especially when it was hot or cold, or raining.
Now, somebody told us that if you locked your doors, they would just they'd break a window, they kick a door in or something like that. But if you left it unlocked, they were fairly tidy. Is that accurate or is that horseshit?
If they want in about it, that's what we did. We never locked shit up. But I didn't feed them neither. I know, they were stealing my beef, there's nothing I could do about it. But I do know some families that have been down there their entire life for generations, and they leave, jugs of water, cans of potted meat, and crackers and stuff out at their barn by a water trough or something, and that shit just disappears slowly. Nobody ever sees anybody except foot tracks.
I had a lady that
I never fed them.
Right. That's kind of like asking for it.
I know a lady that lived in that area in the 60s and early 70s, and she told me one time that her and her husband, that's what they would do. They had a path behind their house. They lived in like 40 miles. Okay. They were like by Junction somewhere, and they would leave bottles of water and stuff down there, jugs of water at that time. They'd use them old milk jugs of water. They'd leave water, and they would leave like crackers, a box of Zesta crackers or something down there. And she said we would just do it because we were compassionate. But the people that were coming over then weren't coming over bringing drugs. They were just coming over to work and be families. Hell, if they were going to hoe cotton in Knox County and Haskell County, Texas, that's how they got here.
They, that's the thing. That's what I was saying. People that have been down there for generations, that was just, they were coming across to work then, and then they're still in that mindset of, I think it's gotten better, but I'm not. It's kind of like feeding a stray dog. You feed one of them, they go back and tell their friends, and then they all just start circling back through, and then it becomes where your place is like a landmark. Well, if we can be here by dark, there's food, water, and shelter for the night. We can get up before daylight and fire out. They'll never know we're there except our tracks. And like you were saying, they didn't tear nothing up. They would just go in there, drink, eat, do whatever they were going to do, clean it up, throw it in the trash, and leave. Like they didn't tear nothing up.
Yeah.
They just were stealing it all,
And I've heard I've heard so many horror stories about the conditions that they're brought over in, and that right there should be the whole reason that we just shut the whole fucking border down. You're not coming in unless you go through a port of entry, and it would eliminate the smuggling aspect of it. And I know that there's going to be loopholes. I know that there's going to be, you can't build a bridge or you can't build a wall high enough to keep everything out.
It's fixing to happen though.
Right.
Now, I'm telling you right now, in 4 years,
I gotta get a. Hold on.
You're good.
I'll be right back.
You're good.
in 4 years, it's all going to be over.
I don't think so.
You may tell you why?
Because Trump's going to be back.
No,
in
no,
office.
no. Nothing to do with Trump. It could be DeSantis. It could be Ted Nugent. I don't know who it is. The people coming over aren't voting Democrat no more. So all of a sudden, here pretty quick, the Democrats are going to be ready.
People coming over shouldn't be voting at all.
They shouldn't be. But the Hispanic vote has always swung big to the Democrats. They're getting voters that way. That's exactly what this is all about. Now that they're losing support down there, they're going to shut that son of a bitch down. You watch.
Right.
Ty, what I was telling him was that the Hispanics used to vote Democrat. The Hispanics aren't voting Democrat no more. They're voting Republican. They're going to shut that fucking border down because they're losing voters. The voters coming over now aren't supporting them. So that some bitch is going to be locked down in the next couple of years. But it is when I was a kid, we used to go to South Padre. I remember as a kid going to Reynosa and Matamoros. You drive to the border, you'd walk across the border. Cost $0.25 to come back to the United States or something. They charge you a little bit. You go down there, you'd eat, you'd shop. It was nothing, no big deal. You're no Mexico. It was not a big problem at all. Nowadays, you're not seeing, and even back then there was illegals, but they come over here to work. They go all the way to Minnesota and they do sugar beets. They were a vital part of the economy everywhere. When I first moved to Knox City 30 years ago, they had watermelons here. Thousands of acres of seedless watermelons. We had a watermelon festival, and half the festival was workers from migrant workers. Right. They'd come here, they'd pick watermelons, and we had a population of 1,000 extra people in June, July, and the 1st of August in Knox City. The grocery stores were busy, the convenience stores were busy. It was everywhere. You didn't think nothing of it. It was part of life. You don't see nobody like that anymore here. So the people coming across are not migrant workers now. Now they're coming over, they're drug mules, or they're child sex traffickers, or they're just trafficking humans.
Well, down there where I was living at is they would take and pack whatever they were packing from Mexico to U.S., I guess, come across, go to I-10 around Lordsburg, drop their packages off, and then whoever the guy was or whatever who was leading the people that were packing the drugs would turn those people loose and tell them, go back to Mexico, you'll get paid when you get home. Well, the first thing they would do was turn around and walk as far as they could, find a camp house, go down there and say, hey, I need Border Patrol. Border Patrol pick them up, haul them back across, kick them back across Mexico. They'd go down there, get paid. 2 months later, they were right back at your door wanting to go home again. And it's like, that's all they're doing. They're just packing dope in, dropping it off, and then getting a free ride back home.
Getting a free ride back home. Yeah, that's fucked up. I didn't know that was how. I didn't know that's how that all went down.
I mean, I think they were. I think if you got caught with it, there was a little more to it. But if they were just nothing, if they just needed Border Patrol, I mean, I'm sure they booked them and wrote, like had kept track of them. They didn't get in trouble. It's not like we didn't throw them in a pen here and keep them.
Right.
They got took back home and they get turned loose.
That's the best case scenario is that they get paid. I've heard so many stories of they bring them over here and they, not so much the drug mules, but if they're just going to smuggle you over here, 10 grand will get you over here. And then all of a sudden you're in a closet in Arizona and they're hustling your family for $10,000 more that they fucking didn't, that they don't have.
Yeah.
So
For sure. It's a pretty wild game.
but just the one time is kind of when you felt uneasy. Now, what is it like sleeping in? How long would you sleep in a teepee for outside?
I mean, we pulled the wagon out in May, and we come back in July. Those 10 days were every 10 days off too. I mean, you sleep all night. I don't know.
You're breaking up. You said so. You would have 10 days. You'd be 10 days out there, and then 2 days back.
How long in general? I mean, you sleep.
But 10 days is as long as a stretch would be. Right?
Right. Yeah. And the only reason that was, and there would be like the wagon crew would stay at the wagon some. Those days he would send us campmen home to check on our country at the house, make sure all of our cows had water and stuff. But most of the time, everybody was on 8 to 10 days and then got off too. So you could go to town and get, nobody hardly even smoked like Marlboro cigarettes. Everybody would buy Buglers because they lasted so long. You rolled your own smokes, But go get beer and cigarettes and whatever you needed.
Now, so you'd have your 2 days off to go check on your own shit. So you're really not even off those 2 days.
No, not at all.
I mean, when you think about it.
You're just not sleeping on the ground.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you're not off. You're just not sleeping on the ground.
You're not sleeping on the ground out in the middle of civilization.
Yeah.
What are guys doing right now with their cows? I mean, it's hot, it's dry, fucking grass is not growing.
I think everybody's starting to wean early. I'm pretty positive. We're fixing to start. I think we're going to start either tomorrow or Wednesday. We're not completely sure yet. We're trying to get there. We actually just got back from Ranch Rodeo there in Wichita Falls this past weekend. So we're trying to get all of our stuff put up and
how'd y'all do?
Get all that tended to, and then we're going to go ahead and start weaning. I think everybody else has already started.
Did you see Clay Reed?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I called him, sent him a text, and I don't know. I think those coyotes are giving him a run for his money.
Yeah, I saw last night. Did he pull it off last night? I saw he didn't get anything yesterday morning, and he had all of his cards in like a 3-hour window.
I hadn't got back to look. I hadn't heard from him.
I hadn't seen anything, and I know he said this morning he didn't get anything, but that's got to be hard. I mean, it's 100 degrees up until 10 o'clock at night. I don't know. The fact that he's still killing coyotes, and if the streak ended on July 17th, like that in itself is quite impressive because it's been over 100 degrees every day, well into the night, and I don't know how he's doing it. But, yeah.
He knows what he's doing better than most folks I've ever been around.
Have you hunted with him at all?
I've talked to him. I haven't ever got to go hunt with him, but I've talked lots of stuff over with him, and he's taught me quite a bit. He ain't going to teach me everything he knows, but he'll tell me, I'm having, like I do a lot of the guiding out here too, and I'll be having trouble, and I'll kind of send him a text, be like, hey, I need some help. This ain't working. This ain't working, and he'll just say, try this. And you're like, no, that makes no sense, but it works. It's like, boom, holy shit, there's a cow.
He shot last night, right before midnight. He shot one gut shotter.
Okay.
So he was gonna have to go look for it this morning.
But he's still the streak continues.
I'm telling you, when it's over, he's gonna be fucking relieved.
Oh, I'm telling you, if he makes it
through August,
if he
can make it through August, but fuck, that's 42 days away. That's 6 weeks. That's a lot of coyotes.
I got faith. I got faith. He'll do it. He'll do it either one way or the other. Then he'll go run a marathon afterwards. Watch. He can't sit still.
He's the most headstrong guy that I've ever met.
He'd have made a damn good woman. He's that headstrong. I'm telling you.
Oh, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
That fucker. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Now, how did y'all do in the ranch rodeo this weekend?
Well, I actually had to sit out. I had a emergency appendix surgery about 2.5-3 weeks ago, and so I didn't get to do nothing. But they did all right. They had some trouble in the bronc riding and got bucked off one night. I think had no time in the cow milking, a couple We ended up just there's a new team this year. There's like me and the boss are the only two that's been on the team, so we're trying to work out all the kinks.
The wild cow milking is my favorite event, probably at a ranch rodeo.
Oh yeah,
It's the best.
I'm always pulling for the cow.
it's they're crazy.
When you do the wild cow milking,
Yeah,
where are
everybody in the
you?
ring.
Where are you on the cow's anatomy? Or are you the runner? That's the best job.
I either rope the cow or I get the cow's head. One of the two.
The cow's head, is that where you want to be? Like, is that the least dangerous part you
Just
could
kind
be?
of depends on.
I would.
No, it's probably
That's the worst.
Probably the wildest part, but I kind of like it that way.
That's the worst.
For the
I kind of like it that way though. So
for the people up north, or where you don't have to be up north. If you've never been to a ranch rodeo, they take a wild cow and they have to rope her, hold her, and some milk and put it in a Coke bottle, just enough to pour out.
Beer bottle, whatever.
A beer bottle, and then they got to run and drop it in a circle somewhere, and it's usually on the opposite end of the fucking
Most of the time.
arena after they've already had their ass beat by this fucking wild cow.
most of the time it's at the. Oh yeah.
Now, how many people? Is it 4 people that can kind of mug her down?
You can have 4 in the arena. It just depends on the rules. Usually, one person ropes her, so you have 3 on the ground. One grabs her, one gets a hold of her head, one gets a hold of her tail, and the other one has the bottle and has to get the milk.
Jeez, I don't know. The head. I mean, you're getting on the head first, right?
You got to rope her first.
Well, I understand, but
Correct.
the first hands on
You gotta
her are
rope
the
her.
head.
Yeah.
So you kind of put her in a headlock, and this is a full-grown fucking cow. Like, it ain't no. I mean, she's a mama cow.
Yeah, it's not Bessie from Borden's that's going to let you get milk out of her.
But then, so that's shitty on its own, getting the head, and then you got to grab the tail, and you got to worry about her kicking you in the nuts, and then you got to milk her, and you got to stick your head under her fucking body. I don't know. I think it all sucks.
I mean that event, like I said earlier, it's a crowd pleaser. Everybody doesn't really dread it, but everybody's like, "Oh crap, here we go, it's a cow milk." And like the doctor, that's what we do. The branding, that's normal. The team pinning, that's normal. Bucking horses, everybody has to ride something that's going to buck at some point in their life. I'm not very good at it, but you have the people that are good at it and they enjoy it. But nobody enjoys the cow milk, and I really don't think. I think it's just something that we do,
Yeah.
I'll tell you who enjoys it. The fat bastard sitting in the 7th row eating nachos and drinking a beer. That's the person that enjoys that shit more than anybody does.
He's having a grand old
And he
time.
ain't ever fucking done any of that
sitting
shit.
up there saying, "Oh,"
Yeah. Or he's
probably thinking how they could do it
yeah, he's an expert.
better.
Yeah. Well, goddamn, if he do this, it'd be a whole lot easier.
What they need to do, bitch, get your ass out here.
Well,
But then, and you think about the milk here, like, I'm sure everybody's on his ass if he ain't getting the milk quick enough. It's like, goddamn, milk that bitch. We might have lost Ty again. There it is. Hell yeah. Perfect.
boy, all your friends in Odessa are sure having bad days today. I just saw where they shut down Jaguars for prostitution. They arrested 18 people.
Oh, who didn't see that coming?
I guess the 18 guys that were in there when it happened.
They shut off Jaguars?
Well, they busted the one in Odessa for, I guess, prostitution. They did a prostitution ring or some shit.
Oh, they didn't. I forgot what it's called, but they have to have a license to do that. It's like, I don't remember. It's an abbreviation. It has a B.
Sexually oriented business license requirements.
Yes, and they didn't renew their shit and just kept running it and got hammered with it.
So you've already seen this news.
I actually looked it up one morning while I was sitting there at Wichita because somebody called me and told me, so I got on Google. I Googled that shit.
They was operating as a bikini bar instead of having their SOB license or SOB license, which is a sexually oriented license.
And they're fully nude, aren't they? Jaguars?
I don't know.
I'm sure if you have enough money, you can do whatever you want.
Well, I looked at the mug shots of the people there, and on Facebook, there is one chick on there that is really pretty attractive, and she's had 47 men already offer to bail her out.
But wait a second. They got them for prostitution?
Well,
or did you just not? You just.
I'm assuming that's what it was, but now it's just under that license.
Hold on. Was she a dancer or was she part owner? Because if she's just a dancer, that's not. I don't feel like they should arrest all the dancers for that. That seems like an ownership problem.
They arrested. I think everyone that showed some titties probably got arrested.
I don't think that's their responsibility. I think the poor strippers are getting railroaded here, and I don't often say that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they arrested everybody, but I feel like did they know that?
Right.
Did they know that their license was expired?
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what they did. But one girl wrote under the comments. She said, "I am not a dancer, but I do have my bail money. All right." So she done got her ass bailed out.
Yeah.
Some of them one or two of the girls, they might be there for a while. So
a little troll up on the stage.
Yeah, they didn't look very good.
Rolling around, getting on the. Man, I tell you what.
911.
Yeah.
911 race call.
Oh, those were big girls. It'd have to be a big stage with a big pole to hold them women.
It don't look good. It don't look good.
It don't look good.
So you worked on the King Ranch. What was that?
Yes,
what
sir.
was that like? That's one of the most prestigious ranches in the world. And I've been to the mansion part, and I had to turn around by the gate there. But the owners of that live a pretty fine life, and that's a lot of traditions from back in the 1800s. Do they continue some of those traditions today?
For the most part, they do everything. Still ride horses, still do everything horseback. They brought a helicopter in, of course, to help gather some of the cattle and all that, but everything is still done pretty well traditional.
Did you see a lot of big deer while you were there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I listening, to old Charles talk about all those deer that he rattled up, did whatever he did. Everybody, I get asked quite often, did he really think he really could have rattled that many deer up or killed that many big deer? I'm like, yes, they're there. There's no way around it. They're there. There's giant deer in there. It's so brushy that it's hard to find them, but they're there.
And back then, there wasn't nobody really commercial hunting them like they are now, because there's parts there you can get on to hunt now. I think a deer hunt's going for $7,500 to $10,000 on there now.
Yeah, I lived on the division that it's the biggest division, and there's 4 or 5 hunting camps on there, and those are mainly like companies say, like, I think Basic used to have one of those leases, but they let it go years ago. But like Basic, Bullfield Supply or whatever, Energy or whatever they are, they would lease that camp for so much a year, and that's where all their employees would go hunt.
Right.
But you can get down south and hunt all that stuff. They sell hunts on the southern stuff.
Yeah, those people that ask, is it possible? Yes, for sure. It's so thick. But you could do the same thing on the Wagner. If you'd got back on the Wagner 10 years ago, before they hunted it very much at all, you could have went in there easily and shot 170-inch deer and bigger, and no one would have known in some places.
My father or my dad worked there at the time of when he was there for like a couple of years, 3 or 4 years, and it sold, and he left when it sold. But he would find sheds. He's got sheds that, if you had the matching, it'd be 180-inch deer.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of big deer in there. When you were on the King and on the New Mexico, what's the weirdest thing you've seen?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'd say probably there at the King, like, the weirdest thing is just like you'd be running through the brush, like say you'd be chasing a cow or something, trying to rope her, and like you would just come across a random like a wagon, like an old wagon wheel or something. It'll just be laying there. Like that's just, but I mean nothing like, I guess, scary weird, just odd stuff.
No chupacabra,
I don't know.
Bigfoot, no
spaceship.
No spaceship at night.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if I hear Bigfoot, like if I hear anything, Clay Reed explains it like I'm leaving the country.
He's got there's two respectable guys that back him up on that. So
you're saying Clay's not respectable?
No, I am definitely saying that, but I'm saying if it's just one guy, you know, you're kind of like, well, how much is this? But like he had two guys that heard the exact same thing and will retell it in the exact same manner.
Yeah, every time it's the same story. They're not making it up. It's not like they're for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'm sure there was some pretty wild. I know one night there in New Mexico, it wasn't something that was fake. It was short and real, but you could see like these little lights, looked like little bitty lanterns going down this mountain. And they would come on and they would go off and they would come on and go off. And then about 4 hours later, they were packing drugs right by us up on the side of a mountain. Oof. Like you could watch them coming from a long ways, you know.
That's one thing that scares me. Like No Country for Old Men. Like, what are you just going to roll up on accident? And then now all of a sudden you're just in the middle of some shit. Have you seen that movie, Jeff?
Mm-hmm. Very good movie. Very, very good movie.
I don't know. A lot of people say it's kind of top 10, but I don't know. I wouldn't go that far as to say that.
I don't know if it's a top 10 movie of all time, but it's a very good movie. That guy on there's a creepy fucker, too.
The murderer?
Yes.
Killer?
Yeah.
Oof. He used what was that gun he had? It was like an air gun type thing.
Yeah, he was a badass.
Because you're just doing your fucking job out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then bam.
Yeah, they're on top of you, and they're ruthless. They are. They're ruthless. They'll just, they're. I guess probably the weirdest thing that I have ever seen would have to do with Cartel in Mexico or New Mexico, southern New Mexico, horseback on the side of a mountain where it's just like all of a sudden there's people walking all around you and they see you and they take off, but then they just get used to you and they don't run from you.
Right.
And it's like, oh shit, should I even be here? Like,
Yeah. What did I just roll up on?
Do they speak to you?
Yeah, in Spanish. If you savvy any kind of Spanish, you can understand what they're saying. But when I first moved down there, I didn't ever try to learn it or pick it up when I was a kid, and I kind of was wishing I would have, because I'm pretty sure there was lots of times they were probably trying to tell me to get the hell out of their way.
Pinche bendejo way. You pick up on that shit real quick. Chupa mi verga, you don't want to hear that.
Do they?
Yeah, when they say chupa mi verga is no bueno for shit.
If they're not hauling the money back through the ranches, though, ever are they?
Not that I'm aware of.
What would you do if you come up on a camp and you found a backpack and nobody there with about $1 million cash in it? What are you doing? You leaving it, or you taking the shit and leaving?
We've talked about this quite a bit. And I'm sure you've thought about it being in your occupation.
Oh, I've thought about it. Like, if I was to find it, what would I do? Well, everybody would know. There would be hints. You just have to watch. Because I ain't leaving that shit laying there. I'm sorry.
Because people in other places of the country, they find $1 million, they're like, fuck, I'm taking that shit.
Right.
You find $1 million with the drug cartel money is a different kind of worry that you have.
Yes.
So you're taking the money, right? Because I am.
You're just going to roll the dice and pray to God that there's not a tracking device in that fucking backpack?
Ty, let me tell you about two of your friends, Zach and Riley Rodriguez. Listen to this shit. They had a plan one time. They came to me. They were 18 years old. We got a plan to make a lot of money. I'm all ears on this because I can't wait to hear what kind of fucked up idea they had. Mm-hmm. Their idea was to go down on the border and wait to find the cartels and ambush them and steal their millions of dollars as they're taking them back to Mexico. Now, is that not the stupidest fucking thing you ever heard of?
Ignorant fuckers. I'll answer that for him because I think he's frozen again. Yeah, we can hear you. Possibly. I used to have friends. I got enemies.
So are you back channeling now?
No, I'm not back channeling. Harry's back.
Yeah, you were froze for a whole minute. I could.
This is ridiculous.
I don't know why it's doing that. Like, y'all freeze for a minute.
Did you hear me say about Zach and Riley and the drug cartel money?
Yeah.
That's the stupidest fucking thing that you could ever come up with.
Yeah, that would have went over like a fly on shit.
I'm telling you right now.
But like, you'd have to. So number one, you just come across $1 million. I'd be worried that.
Well, I wouldn't just take. I would have to watch it for a few days and make sure there's not being. That's the thing. That shit's just sitting out in the middle of nowhere. There's a reason it's there.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not that they've just randomly misplaced $1 million.
Well, very true.
So I would probably have to watch it for a few days, and I would probably still, you know, I said it's not stealing; it's finders keepers, right? So we're not stealing anything.
I don't know.
But I would damn sure go through every bundle of money, and I would make sure there's no tracking device in it before I walked off with it.
Yes. But what scares me is like there'd be a scout on the other side of the hill that had been watching it, same as you.
Yeah, you damn sure have to do some riding and trotting and look around. I mean, it wouldn't be, I would not just walk up and snatch it and leave. No, I would watch it for probably a week or two and figure out what the fuck it's doing there for.
Some reconnaissance. Yes.
Yeah. There's damn sure, like I was saying earlier, we were trotting one morning to gather some cows, and we found a big, it looked like a square bale of pot.
Wow.
Like a square bale of hay, but it was covered in burlap.
Uh-huh.
And you could see where it had been there for a while. Nobody would touch it because you don't know. Like, is it a trick?
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to tempt us with getting your shit, or is it no good? Like, why is it sitting there? Like, they just don't leave that shit laying there.
Right. Did anybody ever come and collect it? Or do you think that it was like a decoy type thing? Or did the cowboys say, it's been here long enough?
I think there was some cowboys that ended up cutting into it and running off with a little bit of it. I think the outsides were pretty dry and brittle, but I think when you got off in the middle, it was still all right. I had no part of that. Yeah, I promise.
I'm sure.
I was no part of that. Don't even know nothing about it. That's what I heard that from a man that heard that from another man.
Yeah. Three times removed.
I was watching one of the live PD or something. They were down in McAllen or somewhere, and they pulled over a guy, and he had a bundle of pot, cocaine. I don't remember. I think it was cocaine, a brick of it, probably a kilo of it. And the cop goes, "What is this?" He goes, "I found this. I was fixing to bring it to the police station.
I was on my way."
He goes, "Well, why didn't you call the cops? Where'd you find it?" He said, "I found it in a ditch by my house this morning." "Well, why didn't you call the cops?" "Well, I was on my way to take it right there." Well, the guy probably really did find it. I mean, he did not look like he was one that would have a kilo of cocaine with him.
Right.
But instead of calling the cops, he took it with him, and then he got busted, and then they got him for intent to distribute. So it got, he big time charges on him.
So what do? You just call the cops and tell them, like,
hey, there's
here?
something here, and come.
You don't take it to the police station, is what you're telling me.
No, it's $100,000 probably.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the pot that got stolen out of the bundle didn't last but about 35 minutes whenever it got out of the bundle.
It wasn't like finding a kilo of cocaine.
We got rid of the evidence.
That shit turned to ash real quick.
A kilo of cocaine is going to get sold.
Yeah.
Looked like a bunch of fucking Indians smoking a peace pipe.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High in the backwoods is what that was.
We're in the spirit world, asshole.
So could y'all drink and everything like at night around the campfire and stuff, or do you try to stay fairly?
They're cowboys, Andy. What do you think?
Oh, we were allowed to drink, but the wagon boss. Sorry, there we go. We were allowed to drink, but the wagon boss did not allow cold beer, so we had to drink hot beer.
What, just because he knows if you're going to drink cold beer, you're probably going to drink too many?
I'm assuming, and it was pretty hard to come across ice out there. I mean, we legit was living on a wagon. It wasn't where we didn't, there wasn't much ice to be had, and what ice was was for the food. So we would tie. I got to where, this is going to make me sound like a severe alcoholic, but whatever. I got to thinking about it one night. I was like, that water's cold. Like, there was water troughs for our horses. So I would take my 6 or 12 beers, and I would put them in palpation sleeves, and I would tie a knot in them. And then I would tie rocks and another one and tie them together, and I would throw them in those water troughs. So that I would pull them to the bottom of the trough where it was cool. So at least when you drank them, it was like cool, not boiling hot canned water like beer. Like, it was at least
somewhat cool.
Yeah.
Not as cool as rodeo cool, but
cool. Right. It had, cool, but it wasn't
now,
cold.
Did the can taste like a fucking water trough? Like when you put your lips and nose to it?
Yeah, that worked for a while, but I think the worst taste that I ever got on one was I needed a cold beer bad, and I took a propane bottle and I laid it down on its side,
Yeah.
and I opened the valve, and it blows that cold propane out, and I rolled that can around in the propane, and when I and took me a big old drink, it was like propane, but I didn't give a shit. I drank the fuck out of it.
God.
I've heard of all kinds of fucking things. I've never heard of anybody propane cold beer.
I need a cold beer bad.
I've done that more than once. I've done that more than once.
I'm not shocked. That's what's even funnier about this whole deal. It just makes sense.
You want it? If you want it, you can get it. You just got to figure out how you're going to do it. There's a way.
Figure it out. You can either deal with horse slobber and smelling like a water tank, or you can just deal with a little bit of propane.
So, what's y'all's meals like out there usually? What are y'all eating for dinner?
Beanie weenies.
Froze up again.
How many hot beers do you think that you could drink?
0.
0 hot beers.
I'm not drinking just hot beer. I don't even like cold beer.
You
that
like
much.
it cold.
If I'm drinking a beer, I want it ice cold. I can't. I'm not drinking hot beer.
Not at all.
No, fuck no.
What
Well,
if
I didn't have nothing else to drink and I was thirsty, I might.
You would drink a hot beer if you had nothing else
If I
to
had,
drink.
if I had cotton mouth, yeah. But I would prefer to have. I would rather have warm water than warm beer.
So when you go over to Scotland, you're not drinking the beer.
Oh, I'm gonna
warm.
try. I'm gonna try one. I'll probably take 3 sips and say, "Can I get iced tea, please?" And they don't have iced tea
Bet
either.
you won't have iced tea.
I'll probably drink a lot of ice water.
Bet they don't have ice water.
Well, they do. That's what drives me nuts about foreign countries is the lack
The
of ice.
ice?
Yes,
Do you want to drink hot tea?
I've had hot tea many times in
Yeah,
Canada.
but not over
In Vancouver, I drank hot tea.
Not over in England, like where they invented it.
Well, in Vancouver, Canada is a English colony at one time.
3 times removed. How many hot beers can you consume in a night? Because I would think like 2. They're so filling.
Hell, I was thinking 10 to 12.
Holy hot beers? Like how hot? How hot are we talking? Like you just, I mean, I guess it's just on a fucking saddle.
I think it depends on how long are you talking. You know, I mean, if you start drinking beer at, I don't know, 6 to 10 probably if you have plenty of time, you know.
And we're talking like Coors Light, Miller Lite, Natty Light,
Coors Light. Now out there, all we drank was Keystone.
Keystone.
I drank Keystone. Yeah.
I don't mind
But-
Keystone.
I would say 6 to 10. If you had, 6 or 7 hours, you don't want to just sit around and chug them. They're not going to do you very good.
I saw a guy drink a dozen skunked beers one night. They'd been in a cooler, and it was late August, and they'd been left from Possum Kingdom on July 4th weekend in a cooler in my garage.
God,
Guy asked me, "Because you got any beer?" It was like 11, 12 o'clock at night. We was playing poker. I said, "They're out of beer. It's gone." He goes, "You ain't got no more beer around here, Jeff?" I said, "There's some in that cooler that we had at the lake on the 4th. Where's it at?" I said, "In the garage." He went out there and come in with them. Motherfuckers were, you know how they're not busted, but they're swolled up and shit.
Got a little dent. I got a little bulge in them.
And he drank every one of them some bitches.
I'd rather have a propane beer.
He probably would have too if he'd have thought about it. I had a propane bottle. I guess we could have propaned them up. He did stick them in the freezer, but he started out. He had 4 of them before any of the cold ones got to him. So back to the food. What kind of food are y'all eating on these things?
Breakfast, we usually, have pancakes, some fried eggs or bacon or sausage. Lunch was usually some kind of soup or stew. I'm trying to think what else. That's about it usually. Then for supper, occasionally chicken fried steak, hamburger steak, hamburgers. Hardly ever got any, like legit steaks. I think they were just so hard to keep.
Right.
Like we didn't. I don't know why it keeps cutting off.
No, you're good. We got you loud and clear. But hardly you would do. I would think that chicken fry would be harder to do on the campsite than like just a regular ribeye.
We didn't get much of that. We ate a lot of chicken
Oh,
and a lot of salad. Like it was not sure enough what you see cooked nowadays on a wagon. I don't know why we were cooked that stuff. It drove everybody crazy, to be honest.
just
I'm not a small man, and I got pretty small when I was out there.
yeah, it's a great diet whenever you go out there.
For sure.
All right, bud. We're gonna let you go here. before
Okay.
before we all pull our hair out on the technology. Listen, we would love to have you back on, and we want to get you and Zach in here. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Have a couple beers
We'll do it.
in person, and
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to. I got plenty more to talk about anytime. It's driving me crazy that it keeps cutting all in and out.
like I said, we're gonna go restart all of our stuff because whenever we lost ours, I think it's on our end, not on yours. But yeah, we'd love to have you here in person, and put a couple. We'll put cold beers in the middle. How about that? We won't make you drink it hot.
Yeah.
Or maybe
That'll work.
maybe it can be a challenge. We can see how many hot beers we can put down.
That'll
All right,
work.
bud. Don't work too hard today. Stay hydrated, stay cool, and pray for rain.
I'll do it.
Thank you, bud.
Hey, bud. God bless you and have a great
Thank
day.
you.
See ya. Bye.
Ty Self. Good guy. Wish we could have heard more of his stuff.
Bad connection. It's the first time we've had bad connection in this studio, so we're still working out all the kinks. Thank y'all for listening
What
to
else
us,
is new?
and have a great week.
Check out all of our wonderful sponsors before you get out of here. Go check out Dive Bomb Industries. Check out Boss Shot Shells. Pacific Calls, Gundog Outdoors, Shin Gear Waders, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast, Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Bangtail Whiskey, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Dirty Duck Coffee, Ducks Unlimited, and Double T British Kennels.